Guys, welcome back to another Bookhouse YouTube video. Today we got our top 24 wide receivers for week 15, the first week of the fantasy playoffs.
And boys, before we get into it, check out our awesome community over on SOBET. Love the group of guys on there. You get content to 25 plus other creators. Well, we post on there every single primetime game. We post our star, sit, and sleeper. We post NFL bets, some plays for Underdog and Thrive Fantasy. We also post some NBA bets coming soon. Love the community. Come join us over on SOBET. First link in the description.
First up, first time this wide receiver is the number one receiver heading into the week. We got Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd's not going to play. T. Higgins, good chance he doesn't play. And it's a pretty good matchup against the Buccaneers. Absolutely love Jamar Chase this week.
Next up, at wide receiver 2, we got Devontae Adams. Devontae last week wasn't amazing, but before that, had a historic 5-game stretch, was absolutely balling out. We love him in week 15.
Tyreek Hill at wide receiver 3. Assuming that ankle injury isn't an issue, should be amazing against the Bills. He has been balling all season long.
Next up, at wide receiver 4, what can you say here? It's Justin Jefferson. Goes against the Colts. The Colts are tough against wide receivers, but against the Lions last week, scored over 30 fantasy points without scoring a touchdown, had over 200 yards. He is this team's clear wide receiver 1.
Next up, wide receiver 5, we got Stephon Diggs. He was pretty horrible last week, had under 10 points, but it's a primetime game. Saturday night football against the rival Miami Dolphins. He still should have a pretty good game.
Our last player in this tier, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra has been balling, getting so many targets in this offense. Yes, Jameson Williams is back, but he's more that deep threat guy. Don't expect him to take too much from St. Brown. Love him in week 15.
First player in the next tier, we got C.D. Lamb. He was pretty bad last week. In a game they should have blown out the Texans, it was close, and he still had under 10 points. A little bit concerning. But this week against the Jaguars, definitely expect him to have at least a solid game. He's for sure wide receiver 1 for us.
And next up, at wide receiver 8, we have A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown last week got that deep touchdown, which kind of not saved his week, but made him have a pretty good game. Over 17 points. A week before that, absolutely balled out against Tennessee. Against the Bears, we could expect the Eagles to blow him out. Maybe not have to throw too much in the second half. A.J. Brown could have probably have a solid game first half, then kind of fall off to end the game. He's a decent start.
Next up, dropping a tier, DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, usually DeAndre Hopkins is higher than this tier, but it's a horrible matchup against the Denver Broncos. They have been elite against wide receivers all season. Surtain has been amazing. Plus, yes, Kyler is down, which should hurt him, but Colt McCoy does force feed him, so it kind of neutralizes there. But again, because of the tough matchup, he's down a tier for us.
And next up at wide receiver 10, we have Keenan Allen. Keenan and Mike Williams are both back. We'll kind of clump them together. Justin Herbert had so many passing yards. These guys are both going to have probably, Keenan's going to get more targets. Mike Williams more that deep play guy. Keenan's more of a safe floor. Mike Williams more that boom or bust. Both of them could go off at any given week.
And last player in this tier, we got Garrett Wilson. Had still a good week last week, but wasn't as good. But it's kind of a pass. Mike White was injured. It was in the snow at Buffalo. This week against the Detroit Lions, who have actually been pretty decent recently. But again, with Mike White hopefully healthy, always have tons of upside, and he has been balling out lately.
And next up, at wide receiver 13, we have Chris Olave. He's been a little disappointing recently, had one blow-up game against the Rams, but this week, a great matchup against the Falcons. Still is this team's clear wide receiver 1, and we do like his upside.
Next up, we're going to group these two guys together. We got DK and Tyler Lockett. Both have been absolutely insane with Geno. This offense has been so fun to watch. But it is a tough matchup against the Niners. They are probably the best defense in football right now. If it was an easier matchup, both these guys would probably be higher. But again, with the tough matchup, down a little bit, but still have great upside.
And next up, at wide receiver 16, we have Juju Smith-Schuster. He is finally back. Had a bit of a scary concussion a couple weeks ago. Now he's back, and he's back to balling out. Played great against Denver last week. This week, we expect another wide receiver 2 performance. Love him this week.
Next up, we got Michael Pittman on Saturday playing the Minnesota Vikings. It is a great matchup. Minnesota has been awesome all around, except for they are pretty bad against wide receivers in fantasy. Michael Pittman with Matt Ryan has been decent recently. Not insane upside, but high enough upside in what should be a decently high scoring game. Like him as a wide receiver 2.
Next up, in this wide receiver 2 range, we have Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper should be this wide receiver 1 in this offense. Deshaun Watson should be getting better. The one problem, though, Njoku gets a good amount of targets. Jonathan Peoples-Jones gets a good amount of targets. Nick Chubb should be able to run the ball a lot. There's just a lot of mouths to feed in Cleveland. He is a good player, though, and still should be started.
Next up, we got Terry McLaurin against the New York Giants. He has killed the Giants recently. Even last time they played them right before the bye week, had a great game, had a touchdown. It's going to be on Sunday Night Football. This game is super important for both teams. Expect McLaurin to have a good game.
And next up, at wide receiver 20, we have Chris Godwin. Chris Godwin, The last 2 weeks a little bit disappointing, but let me read you out these targets. 9 targets last week, then 13 the week before, then 13 the week before that. Been getting the ball so much. With Mike Evans disappointing, expect Chris Godwin to step up a little bit. He has a good connection with Tom Brady and still is a solid start.
Next up, Brandon Ayuk as our first borderline wide receiver 2. Bumps up our rankings with the unfortunate Debo injury, but that injury for fantasy does help Ayuk, does help CMC, does help Kittle. All those guys get a bit of a bump. And Ayuk this week against the Seahawks does have a good upside, but still is a borderline wide receiver 2 for us.
And at wide receiver 22, he exploded last week. It's Jerry Jeudy. We told you to start him over 33 fantasy points. If Sutton doesn't play, we can move him up even higher, but it's a bit unknown with that. He's this clear wide receiver 1. Even when Sutton plays, we still like Jeudy better. He's a great play in week 15.
Next up, we got a player in the same game as Jerry Jeudy. We got Marquise Brown. He has been hit and miss. He started off the season amazing without D-Hop, but with D-Hop back, he is the clear wide receiver 2, and without Kyler, his upside does take a hit because this offense is going to get worse, but he's still a low-end wide receiver 2 for us.
And our last player of the video, been very disappointing recently, it's Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, I don't know what's been going on with him. Last 2 games has been quite bad. To start the year, he was like the wide receiver 6 at one point, absolutely balling out, and it's a pretty tough matchup against the Bills. Bills, great defense, good against the run, pretty good against wide receivers as well. We still play him, but just don't love his upside in week 15.
And guys, thank you so much for watching the video. Again, check out our SOBET awesome community. Come join us over there on SOBET, first link in the description. Again, thanks so much for watching. See you guys next time.